So you want to learn about the dative case. This video is going to teach you all about those datives. We're going to start by doing what we always do and reviewing what we already know. So here is a noun chart that we're going to fill out, and I want you to first start by filling out this column with the uses of each case. Obviously, we're going to wait on the dative because we're going to go over that soon. Pause the video, do that now. Okay, unpause the video. Here we go. The nominative is a subject, or it does the verb. The accusative is either the object / gets verb. Those mean the same thing. Or it can follow a preposition. And the ablative also always follows a preposition right now. All right, then we're going to go through each declension. We're going to start with first declension. Go ahead and fill out this column with the first declension endings. Obviously waiting again on those dative endings. Pause the video. Do that now. Unpause, and there are your answers. And then second declension, same thing, wait on those datives. Pause the video, do that now. There are your answers for second, and go ahead and do third, waiting on those datives. Pause the video, do that now. All right, there we go, there are our answers. And make sure you've got this all filled out because we're going to start moving on. All right, so dative endings, guys. That's right, new endings. First declension, we've got an AE in the singular and an IS in the plural, and then an O in the singular and an IS in the plural, and then an I in the singular and an ibus in the plural. And I know that some of these look kind of familiar because the AE is both in the dative, the genitive too, and then the nominative plural. And the second declension has that O in two places. And those you're just going to know from context, and we'll get some examples of that later. And then in the third declension, you have that I, which is also a second declension I, but don't forget, words can either be third declension or second declension. So we're going to be able to use both context and declension to tell the difference between those. You don't have to write all those arrows on your notes. All right. We're going to do some practice now. We'll go over how these are used in a little bit, but right now what I want you to do is just try the practice for all of these. We've got hospes, hospitus. I know this word is third declension because it ends with an IS. If you don't know this, I highly recommend you going back and watching the noun dictionary entry video and the noun chart video. Okay, so third declension, which means I drop that IS to find my stem. And then I'm going to look at my third declension dative endings, and I see that in the singular it's an I, so I go add that I, and in the plural it's an ibis, so I go add that ibis. All done, hospiti and hospitibus. All right, next we've got toga, togai, which is first declension because of that AE. Drop the AE, get my stem of tog. Look at my chart, first declension ending is an AE in the singular, so I add that, and it's an IS in the plural, so I add that. All right. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to do the second side of that column, or the second column of those, on your own. Okay, unpause, here we go. So equus, equi, I know a second declension because of that I, drop the I, get my stem equ, and then I add my second declension dative singular, which is O, and then in the plural, it's IS, so it's equis. And then here's another third declension one because that IS, drop the IS, I get can, and then I add an I to the dative, or to the singular, and then ibus to the plural, canibus. Dative pronouns. I wish I had some great way to tell you how to memorize these, and you do see that the I is the third declension singular dative ending, and the IS is the first and second declension plural ending. But really, you just need to memorize these so that you know if you see wobis to translate it to y'all or for y'all. So we have two big uses of the dative, and we'll go and we'll fill out the chart in a little bit. But right now, we're going to talk about the indirect object. Now, the indirect object shows to whom or for whom the verb is getting done, but it doesn't directly get verbed. So here's an example. I sent the letter to my mom. Sent is my verb here, and what's actually getting sent would be in the accusative is the letter. And then my mom is like the interested party in this. She's not directly getting sent, but the letter is getting sent to her. Here's another example. They showed their dance troupe, the llama. So what's actually getting showed here, which is our verb, is the llama, and it's getting shown to the dance troupe. So dance troupe would be in the dative case because it's not what's being shown, but they're still an active participant in this verb, we might say. All right, so easy translation option is just to put to or for in front of the word in the dative. So up there, I could have said they showed the llama to their dance troupe, and it still would be the same thing. Usually it's used with verbs of giving, showing, or telling. And then our second use of the dative is the dative with a special verb, which really just means that some verbs, these verbs, take their object in the dative case. So whatever I support, I'd put the thing I support in the dative, or whatever I trust, I put the thing I trust in the dative. It's kind of like you might say we have support for this person, or we have trust in this person. That's why it's dative. Go ahead and fill out that chart up top, making sure that you write that it's the indirect object, or it's used with certain verbs. Okay, let's start practicing. So our first sentence says, Quintus gave money to the slaves. Now, Quintus is my nominative. It's doing my verb gave, which is dead at there. And then money is accusative, so it's the thing that's getting given. And then the slave has an O on the end. So I looked at my second declension dative endings, and I see that means it's the indirect object, so I'm going to translate it as to the slave. Now, I know that O could also be ablative, but the chart also says that ablative follows a preposition, and we don't see any prepositions in this sentence, so we know it's not ablative. Next one is nos senatoribus et populis favimus. We support the senators and the people. And I can hear you all, but Magistra, you said that we could translate the datives as to or for. Well, that's true for the indirect object ones, but if we have one of those verbs that takes its object in the dative case, which here is support, then we need to know that it's just the thing we support, we just have to put in the dative case. So there's no special translation, it's just we support the senators and the people. And because the senators and the people are getting supported, they're dative. And the next one is the merchant showed the toga to us. And I want you to remember this is one of those dative plural pronouns. And then nobis is just translates as to us or for us. All right, I want you to pause the video and do the next 3 sentences on your own. Okay, unpause, and here we go. We have Metella et Caecilius quinto credent, which means Metella and Caecilius trust Quintus. And remember, trust is one of those verbs that takes the dative. So since Quintus is the one who's getting trusted, he's in the dative case. And then feminis is our dative in this one. So it's the merchant showed the togas to the women. And it's going to translate, or the merchant shows the woman the togas. Either one of these is fine. And then Metella brings the toga to the merchant is our next one. Mercatori being our dative there. And I know bring can feel like it's got motion toward, so maybe I want to use odd. But I don't want to use odd if you can move that dative to right after the verb and it still makes sense. And the merchant the Metella brings the merchant the toga. That still makes sense. So it's still right. It should be dative. Okay, Discipuli, that's it. Go ahead and take the quiz, and I will see you in class.